Checking out the new XE13 powertrain package was the hook that got me down to Volvo headquarters in Greensboro, North Carolina. While I-Shift can make a driver's time in the city much less tiring and stressful, big trucks spend most of their time on the highway where the transmission stays mostly in top gear and doesn't get much of a workout. XE13, which stands for exceptional efficiency by the way, is designed to lower engine revs by about 200 RPM at highway cruise speed, something Volvo calls downspeeding. Volvo says downspeeding can reduce fuel consumption by about 2%. Let's see how it works. Volvo's XE13 powertrain package takes a gear-fast, run-slow concept to the next level, and the D13 engine delivers enough punch to make it work. The idea is simple enough: lower the engine speed while cruising down the highway and you'll reduce fuel consumption. But where you run into trouble is on the hills. Not mountains, just the rolling hills, the kind you find on every highway in the country. When the road speed drops, so does engine speed. And when you drop below the lower limit of the engine's peak torque range, you have to downshift, and fuel efficiency goes right out the window. The XE13 package takes full advantage of the Volvo D13 engine's modest 425 horsepower for fuel-efficient cruise speed, but deep down between 1,000 and 1,500 RPM of the engine lurks a whopping 1,750 pound-feet of torque. That's enough to pull you over most rolling interstate-type hills without a downshift. As you'll see in just a moment, I pulled a 2-mile, 3% grade on Interstate 40 between Raleigh and Greensboro at a very strong and very efficient 1,050 RPM.
This is going to take us up a 3% grade for a couple of miles. Going into it at 65 in cruise, at 1,140, and now we're starting to drop. So we'll have an upshift coming here in just a second. 1,050 RPM and about 58 miles an hour. Drop from 12th to 11th gear.
Many drivers are reluctant to let an engine drift down that low for a couple of reasons. First, they have probably heard at some time or another that lugging an engine can cause damage. Well, this engine was designed to run that slow. And second, many engines just don't sound or feel right running at such low RPMs, like there's no pulling power left. Let me say the D13 pulls strong down to an unbelievable 900 RPM, so it's very well suited to a low RPM drivetrain. Finally, and I think this really matters from a driver's perspective, the engine still sounds good, not like it's about to come apart down at that low RPM.
Starting to gain speed again, so I guess we made it up there with just one shift. That's mid 70,000 pound range, going up to 3% grade. Just drop one gear. Respectable.
The particular hill we put the XE13 to work on is on Interstate 40 just east of the I-85 split. It's about 2 miles long and maybe a 3% grade at the steepest point. I made 2 loops around the hill, so I had 4 chances to see the XE13 do its stuff. With a gross combination weight of about 74,000 pounds, I hit the hill at 65 miles per hour in top gear, which is 12th on an I-shift. We were doing 1,140 RPM at 65 miles per hour with the cruise control on, so the engine and transmission were doing all the thinking on the first loop.
So they were at 1,100 now, 62 mile an hour. She's still pulling along pretty good. 58 mile an hour. She's holding her own just about 1,000 RPM. There's 1,000 RPM. It makes a downshift. It lugged all the way down to 1,000 before it initiated that downshift. Now she's back up to about 1,200 at 55 miles an hour, and it's going to pull this hill with no problem.
With cruise on, I had pulled about 3/4 of the way up the hill in top gear. We had drifted down to about 58 miles per hour and 1,000 RPM before it grabbed 11th gear. From where we were on the hill, I was thinking that I might be able to feather the throttle pedal and coax the truck over the top without downshifting in manual mode. When coming back around on the first loop, the engine again got down to 1,000 RPM before downshifting. That, I figured, was the programmed lower limit of the engine's power band.
Climbing this grade here, maybe 2% or so, 60 mile an hour, 1,125 RPM. I've got my foot in this, we're not on cruise right now. But it's pulling along just fine at 1,000 RPM. Listen to the engine, there's no rumbling or vibrating or shaking. It sounds really solid, even down to 1,000 RPM. I think we're going to make this hill.
second loop, I left the cruise control off and worked the throttle pedal myself. It felt great as we passed through 1,000 RPM without dropping a gear. 975 at 52 miles per hour, 950 at 50 miles per hour. My smile got bigger as we neared the crest of the hill, but my bubble burst at 900 RPM. That's quite remarkable for a 13-liter engine, but so is 1,750 pound-feet of torque from a relatively small power plant.
Okay, we'll try it here. I'm easing down again now, close to 1,000 RPM. We're at 1,050, 1,025. We're at 1,000. I'm going to back off the throttle rather than giving her more. See if I can keep it in this gear right over the top. About 975 right now, still holding 52 mile an hour. 900, that was it. 900 was about as low as we could go with it. But that's still pretty remarkable. Lots of torque down there too. That's in fact where all the torque is. Down 1100, 2000, 1100.
I've long been an advocate of low RPM operation. Intuitively, I knew it saved fuel, but it's also less noisy. I was quite excited when I first learned about this low RPM XE13 powertrain option, and I think other drivers will be comfortable with it too, mostly because of the way the engine pulls and sounds down at 1,000 RPM. And by the way, if you haven't already, check out part 1 of this test drive, iShift in the City. I think you'll find it quite interesting. That's it from Greensboro. I'm Jim Park. Till next time, keep your revs down.